We appreciate that everybody came today to honor the life of Jay Glazer. I don't know how many people know that Jay grew up in an Orthodox Jewish world. He didn't stay very Orthodox for long. But some of what we're going to do in this service is going to reflect the fact that some of these traditions really did mean something to him. And some of it is going to reflect the part about the not so Orthodox in this. In Jewish tradition, we don't know exactly what happens when someone dies. But I can tell you that I know that Jay's spirit is living on. Because all morning I kept hearing this voice in my head saying, "It's okay, darling." And nobody ever calls me darling except Jay. He also requested that we make it brief. So if you think about Jay, how many of you in this room think about Jay and the first thing that you think about makes you smile? Hands up. All right, you can't see what I'm seeing, but everybody. Anybody not had their hands up for that first question? Anybody, the first thing you thought about was another part of Jay? Good. Not the first part. The first part. Okay, front row, you win. So didn't surprise me at front row, maybe. Another question. How many of you are related to Jay by blood? How many of you are related to Jay not by blood? How many of you worked with Jay, were connected by his work? How many are here because you love the family? This weekend, the Torah portion talks about, one of the things, it talks about really horrible things that I am sure that most rabbis in the whole country are going to try to avoid about talking about, because it's just horrible things and punishments and stuff. But in it is this nugget that is awesome. It's the priestly blessing. That comes up this week. May God bless you and protect you. May the light, I can't do it without doing it in Hebrew. In Hebrew we would say, Yivrechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you and protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may the light of God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may God's face be lifted up to you and may God grant you peace. And I never got to ask Jay what his favorite prayer was, but I would guess that was probably his favorite because it meant the service was over. That's just my guess. I mean, he would probably say, oh yeah, it's lovely if he thought about it, but I think the most important part is that it meant the service was over, which is why I decided on the unorthodox part to start with it. There were things I wanted to tell you about Jay, and the family is going to talk to you, a few people in the family that were chosen to speak to you, and they're going to get to tell you the insider story. But I wanted to tell you something about why I think that prayer reminds me of Jay. I don't know if you've ever thought about it, and we've talked about it a few times here, that the first line says, may God bless you, and that's a good thing, and protect you. And so there's a question. If God is blessing you, why does God have to protect you too? Isn't blessing already covering the protection part? So many of the rabbis say, well, it has to do with blessing you with health or blessing you with wealth and protecting you so that you could use that health and that wealth in good ways. Jay was one of the most generous people I have ever known. I think that I'm looking at a whole sea of heads shaking. I was going to keep going, but I'm looking at everybody just shaking their head. It says that one of the reasons is that it could be that bless you with assets and protect you with bodily health. So anybody who knows Jay knows that for a long time, for as long as I've known him, he's had health issues. But those health issues never got him down until the very, very end. And every single time we would hear about something else going on, he would just kick it back at them. And he would just recuperate every single time. And to me, that's the protection part. Our bodies are going to do body things. Sometimes it's good and A lot of times it's also not good. And the fact that God was protecting him despite all the awful things, I think that's God blessing him and protecting him. One of the ways that it says that it's blessing and protecting is that it blesses you in this world and protects you in the world to come. So I pray that God has blessed him. We know family, friends, and that God will protect him in the world to come. He's been blessed with friends. He's been blessed with family. He's been blessed with dogs and dune buggies. Then it says, may the light of God's face shine upon you. I know that we're all created in God's image, and Jay's face shined. And then it says, may God lift up God's face to us. And Jay may not have been a very tall guy, but he showed me how God's face can lift up and make us all better for having known him. And grant us peace, and grant him peace. So I asked you to raise your hand for a lot of things in the beginning. The service hasn't really officially started, even though we started with the very last prayer that we would normally say on a Friday night. It's kind of Jay's way of saying, wake up, it's about to start now. Jay's favorite thing to tell me every single time he saw me is that I was his favorite rabbi because I never put him to sleep during the sermon. And I told him I thought that wasn't a good compliment because if he comes on Shabbat, it's supposed to be a day of rest, and I'm supposed to put him to sleep. And so that wasn't a compliment, and he thought he was being sweet. But every time he saw me, he told me how much he appreciated me. And I imagine that's true for you as well. So I'm going to ask you to raise your hands one more time. I want you to put an imaginary Glazer drink in your hand. And we're going to toast him for blessings and protection, for shining faces, for grace, for peace. And then if you drink it, l'chaim, to life, you'll notice that it's non-alcoholic because he never drank alcohol. It used to drive people crazy. So the people he worked with, it would drive him crazy. We will hear more about him. But now our obligation is to try to honor his life, try to figure out how we're going to live our life without him, here to call all the time. But I'm telling you, he's here. I'm telling you, if you need to have a shot of Jay, he's right here. He touched many people's lives in ways that we're not going to be able to live without. And it's going to be difficult to try to do without. Death has taken our beloved Jay. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their hearts, there's loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God. Be with them. For Jay's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator, in light as in darkness, in joy as in sorrow, in life as in death. In your handout, on the back of it, you will see a psalm that I'm sure you do not need the words to. I'm going to say a few lines in Hebrew, and then I'm going to invite you to please join me in English. Adonai ro'i lo echtzar, benot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni, nafshi yishovev. Please join me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Prepared a table. He was so proud of the fact that he was a cook for us at the breakfasts that the Brotherhoods did. He hasn't been able to do it for the last few years, but he was proud of that. That's another conversation I think we had almost every single time. And our cups would overflow with Jay and his stories and his. I always think of him with a smile. What can we know of death? We who cannot understand life. We study the seed and the cell, but the power deep within them will always elude us. Though we cannot understand, we accept life as the gift of God, yet death, life's twin, we face with fear. But why be afraid? Death is a haven to the weary, a relief for the sorely afflicted. We are safe in death as in life, and there's no pain in death. There's only the pain of the living as they recall shared loves and as they themselves fear to die. Calm us, O God, when we cry out in our fear and our grief. Turn us anew toward life. Awaken us to the warmth of human love that speaks to us of you. In his sorrow, Job cried out, Adonai Natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed is the name of God. An ancient people, we are well acquainted with grief and the valley of the shadows. Death and sorrow are not strangers to us. Yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there's strength in faith. With Job, we say, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us a loved one who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, God, you've taken away. We pray for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust, before which we acknowledge your sovereignty and love. As we now say, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach, blessed be the name of God, now and forever. There are a few family members who have been selected to share some memories and words about Jay. I invite them to come up one at a time, or however many at a time you need to come up. Just in case. Yeah, I don't know whether it was. Is that yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
And there's water here too, and yours.
Thank you.
You want this?
Awesome. This morning, before normal people woke up, I came down the stairs in the house I grew up in on South Dresden Circle, knowing that my sweet daddy would be in the kitchen chair that he's always sat in for the last 41 years. What I didn't know was what we'd talk about. I stopped by his room to steal a flannel shirt. Uh-oh.
It's okay.
And was tempted to stop there. But I plowed on, knowing he was waiting for me. When I got there, he looked up at me under bird's nest eyebrows from a pile of National Geographics, newspapers, AARP clothing catalogs, international thriller novels, biscuit crumbs, a tub of country crock, a weird lukewarm coffee, as if I were the one who was late. There are way too many memories to share today, but I've picked out a couple from our early morning kitchen table discussions. The first one, I was 4 or 5, and we were in New Orleans, and I was wearing my finest pink nightgown. We were going to morning call for beignets, but first my dad had to put my hair in puppy ears because no one else was in the world was awake, especially Mom. But it was just us, and we always had the most fun. The next few times I was wearing, okay, don't laugh, ridiculous 80s clothing, eating vanilla ice cream with peanut butter slapped on it, or just being glad that I was distracting enough that my dad couldn't see my little brother shimmying up the tree in the backyard to swing onto the roof and to pole vault to safety in his room as he snuck in. Soon, I wore tie-dye t-shirts with University of Kansas on it, and he inferred to me that yes, I would make a fine psychologist, but I might identify a wee bit too much with my patients, especially the ones in straitjackets. Next, I wore a sorority formal t-shirt, his PJ bottoms, and we had a discussion about how, yes, I was an accomplished amateur litigator, but I would have to study a lot, and why the heck didn't I just follow my heart and become an artist of some kind? We talked of many things, from the Holocaust to my grandparents, from how hippos are indeed the most dangerous animals in Africa, to the time when a lizard snuck into their hotel bathroom on my parents' honeymoon in Mexico, and my mom thought Godzilla had come to take her. From the time my dad Jay and his beloved brother Louis spontaneously joined a Nigerian dancing parade in New York after scarfing down corned beef, and to how he fell in love with my mother before she even spoke, when he saw all 85 pounds of her snarf down numerous mayonnaise sandwiches in her parents' kitchen. She did that. He expounded upon the joys of Yiddish, why scrambled eggs are a delicacy, why cranky old waitresses make the best servers, and always his wonder that my mom had married him. We were his children, and why Doug Levy was Superman. We talked of road trips, what an absent-minded professor my brother was, and how no one really liked my dad. They just tolerated him because of my mom's adorableness. Frequently, he consoled me that unlike my kind-hearted brother, who looked like him, but got my mom's smarts and true desire to be a great person, I, the unlucky one, resembled him in more than just eyebrows and eyelashes. By 47, I have accepted this lot in life, because to be anything like either one of my parents or my brother would be a lifetime achievement. One moment that I had with my dad eclipses everything, and I'm sure I've told a lot of you this story. Around 20 years ago, he explained to me, he and my mom's action plan if there were a crisis. He said that they had both had the greatest joys that life could offer. They had found the loves of their life, they had gotten to have children, they had gotten to grow a family. It was our turn now. Their choice was Mark and I, in any situation. They would choose us first. They had had the ultimate happiness as far as Mom and Dad were concerned, and they were our safety net. My dad made decisions quickly and with finality. When I introduced Mom and Dad to my, at the time, boyfriend, Doug, I saw my dad look at him over a bowl of matzo ball soup, and with a bittersweet look, mentally step back, knowing that for the rest of my life, Doug was meant to be my other half. You mean the world to him. And I know he rested so much easier knowing that instead of aggravating him, it was now your job to deal with me. He told me when my dear cousin Lane died prematurely at 42 that Glazers never die. We don't let them. Our job is to sit around telling stories about them because making fun of people means you love them. In our minds, every moment of his childhood with Bubby Molly, Papa Fritz, Uncle Louis, all of his relatives were alive in our heads, filled with mischief, fun, banging gate doors, constant family, and a fierce love that dared anyone to take any of them on. I am the one now, standing in awe that I gave birth to Jordan and Taylor, my two brilliant, headstrong, and independent girlies. Like their Papa Jay, their theme song could be Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way. And like my own dad, I will watch them grow, knowing that they will be smarter, more beautiful, more kind, and better leaders than I ever was. He and my mom taught me that one day my parents will be gone, and my brother will always be my best friend. That family means everything, even if you have to fight for it. And that every bit of stress I suffer as a mom is karma. To Papa Jay, Taylor, and Jordan, you were magic. Dad and Mom told me that a person is not entitled to be loved. They have to be worthy of it. And the best way to start is to see the magic in others even before they do so that when they look at you, they see their best selves. That it's okay to wear in pajamas because you want to, because whatever I choose to wear is what everyone else should be wearing, and they're just too wimpy to do it. That everyone is a potential friend, and you're an idiot if you think you're better than anyone else. Talent and brains do not make you a good person, and any gifts you have are just that and should not be treated as anything more. A poker face is only appropriate when playing cards or if honesty would do more harm than good. That, above all, people matter more than anything. And if you wind up with a handful of good friends at the end of your life, you are the luckiest schmo on earth. Looking around this room, I stand in awe of each of you who have come here today carrying a little piece of my daddy in your heart. There is more than enough of him to go around. Remember him when you say what you think, when you stand up for the underdog, when you wear your PJs in public, or barge into a restaurant kitchen to cook your own damn eggs. Think of him when you meet a stranger who with one look becomes a lifetime friend. Or you look at your own family and friends and realize how truly blessed you are. Delight in watching ridiculous nature shows on TV. Search for the inner wisdom of everyone that you encounter. And most of all, treasure the bounty of your life. Be proud of who you are and who you are not. And always pet a dog when you see one. Laugh when you screw up, but definitely get back up and don't be a wimp. Be proud equally of the times you come in first and the times you come in last, knowing that every single person is the best at something that you're not. Most of all, love, 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 and tell stories. When this service concludes, please share your stories with my family. Some of them may wind up on Facebook because they are all worthy stories to tell. I'll give you my email because I want to hear them all. Because at 4 a.m. at the breakfast table, my dad will always be sitting there waiting for me.
Hi. Okay. My Papa J, he is special. I told my dad yesterday that he's not 1 in a million. He's 1 in 7 billion. Papa J has always been my pal who wakes up at 5 a.m. every morning and offers me coffee and a ride to the donut shop. I tell him no on the coffee, but he insists. I say, no, no, no. But I always say yes to the donuts. Something that struck out about this coffee story is that he was being a people pleaser. Papa J, a people pleaser? All of you know that that's not true. He's like a blueberry muffin with sugar coated on top that might just be a little stiff. Why I say that is because he's always sweet on the inside, and when you're with him, you can sense that. Everyone had different experiences with this wonderful man. He changed them in some way. We will probably never know that. Everywhere my Papa J went, it was like he left breadcrumbs that marked his properties. Now it's time for a bird to eat those breadcrumbs. But there's still a mark in the sidewalk from where those crumbs were, like there is in our heart. This man meant so much to me, and I hope he meant the same to all of y'all. One of my favorite memories with him was at 5 a.m. one morning, and he explained a photo to me. It was a photo of his family. He showed me who everybody was. This really told me how much family means to him. He loved his family like the world. When my Bubby Molly passed away, he was very sad, and it was very clear how much he loved her and wanted the best. He was sad to see her go, but he knew that she would be with her love, Fritz. Papa J will still have so many experiences and will be in good hands, Bubby. And Bubby Harriet, know that you mean the world to him, and you will always forever and ever be in his heart. Another thing that was very important to him was friends. Every time he walked down the street, he knew somebody and had to have a very long conversation with them. One of my grandpa's best friends was George. He used to own a small breakfast place with great pies. We would normally go there for breakfast. He would walk in and then he would ditch us. He would go talk to more people. And I'm betting those people had a great day after talking to him. And he would always give them a hug after. Hugs were the best from him. It was like snuggling a huge teddy bear. Sadly, in April, he could not make it to my bar mitzvah. I was standing on the bima, and I could feel his presence, like he was holding the Torah with me and cheering me on while I sung the Avot. I would also like to applaud Bubby. When we were in Shreveport, she fed him homemade food, and she brought it up every single day to him. She worked so hard to keep him young, which she did. When I showed up to his hospital room for the first time, I was kind of confused like he was. I could tell that he was not completely there. When my mom was on her phone while he was napping, she started to hum Fiddler on the Roof, the song If I Were a Rich Man. He started to hum, even though we thought he was asleep at the moment. We listened to that song over and over on iTunes. He enjoyed it. That's when I knew his spirit was still there. And all you guys know that's his favorite. So. One of the things he told me when he was watching golf, also his favorite but very boring, he said, if you win, then you're going to have to buy a yellow dune buggy. Okay, half of you know what that is, and the other half of you don't know what that is, and the other half are smiling so much right now. That's not bad, but now you know. It's an old-fashioned yellow Jeep, and he had a cover that said Jay's Buggy. Papa Jay would ride this around the town. Some people at stoplights would roll down their window and say, nice ride. Something about Papa Jay was special. The smell of his clothes and his house was my favorite. He always treated me like a princess. Right now, he's with us in our minds. We all feel it. So can we have 10 seconds of silence to feel his presence even more? I know all of you here love him and will keep him in your mind for the rest of your life. Thank you, and rest in peace, Papa Jay. Papa Jay was always a very special person in my life. He was my best friend. We all know that sometimes, most of the time, he was a grump. But somehow I found his soft spot. He might have been feisty on the outside, but on the inside he had a huge heart made out of pure love. He was so kind and wanted more for me and Jordan than he wanted for himself. He was my hero. I was inspired, and I wanted to learn from him. In third grade, we had to write hero letters. We picked people that made a dent in our life, that were kind, selfless, and inspiring. The only thought that came into my head was Papa Jay. The times we spent together were always followed by a smile, a laugh, and most of the times a sarcastic, hey. He always seemed to know what made me happy. He noticed how much I loved to find and crack pecans from the pecan tree in their yard. So for my birthday one year, he collected all the pecans he could find, the best nutcracker, and gave them to me. We spent hours talking, cracking, and eating. Every time he would say, did you know that we have the best pecans in the world? They would be the most popular snack in the world, but they're too hard to crack. No one seemed to know what he meant, but on the inside I understood him, and he understood me in a way that could not be remade or repeated. He was truly my hero. He was like a pecan. He was hard on the outside, but if you took the time to crack and find the inside, you'd be rewarded. He was a great person, and I loved him.
It's hard to know even where to start describing my dad, so I'll just dive in, because that's the way he always did things. It's clear by the number of people here how many lives he touched. My dad loved the uniqueness in people and what made them interesting, even if sometimes what made them interesting was just that they would sit and listen to his stories. He told Elise and me the same stories so many times that we used to joke with him, "Hey, remember story number 2? Yeah, that's a great one." Dad had an uncanny ability to make people feel welcome and almost obligated to feel at home around him. One of my best friends in high school to teen used to accidentally jog by our house right around dinner time and then proceed to try whatever he was eating for dinner right off his plate. He pretended to complain but loved it more than anything. My friends used to love him in high school because they knew if we stayed out late enough, we'd run into him at Merle's Diner around 2 a.m. and he'd buy us pie when we were out of money. I learned so many things from my dad, some of them good even. He taught me to love and appreciate something about everyone you meet, that it's important to try and make people laugh even if you swing and miss sometimes. He taught me to be a good loser by beating me relentlessly in ping pong for years. He even used a ping pong ball once, and then a flower pot. And then to appreciate what it meant to finally win occasionally. He taught me the importance of hard work even when you don't love every day of your job. And most of all, he taught me that the most important commitments you make are to your family. He loved to tell the story about how first he became known as Harriet's husband, then Elise's dad, and then Mark's dad. Then one day, he knew he had truly found his place in life when someone asked him, "Hey, aren't you Boodle's father?" That was our dachshund. I've never been more proud of my dad than seeing him speak at his mother Molly's funeral. He was so comfortable, and maybe it was because he always loved telling stories about his family, especially Molly, Fritz, and Louis. He was never a super religious person, but one part of Judaism that he very much took to heart, and which we will clearly keep to, is that a person is still with you as long as there are people who remember and tell stories about them. So with that in mind, I want to leave you with the advice my father gave me, which I will always remember the most. It is most definitely not socially acceptable, but neither was Jay Glazer at all times, nor should you be. But he always kept things interesting. See, I was a pretty good student growing up, but was also a real stress case. So my dad didn't have to worry too much about nagging me to study, but he did have to worry about me going crazy over the SAT and tests and college applications. So one day when he found me particularly distraught, he looked me in the eye and had this simple advice. "You know what you need to do more of? Drink beer and chase girls." Well, the irony, of course, is that I never once in my life saw my dad drink a beer. He only cared about the one girl he caught, my mom, but I knew exactly what he meant metaphorically, and maybe a little bit literally. That advice still lightens my step to this day, and I chased just enough girls to find the right one, my wife, Celeste. I am so proud of my dad and thankful for all he's done for us. And I will always strive to bring the joy and security to Celeste, Ben, and Bridget that my dad gave to my mom, Elise, and me. He's resting easy knowing that you are all here today to keep his story alive. Thank you.
Keep telling those stories. And I'm glad it was the family that got to say that he was like a nut and a grump. I'm glad I didn't have to say those things, that I got to say the good things. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. O God of life, amid the ceaseless tides of change which sweep away the generations, your love remains to comfort us and give us hope. Around us are life and death, decay and renewal, the flowing rhythm that all things obey. Our life is a dance to a song we cannot hear. Its melody courses through us for a little while and then seems to cease. Whence the melody? Whither does it go? In darkness as in light, we turn to you, the source of life and the answer to all its mysteries. I invite you to please rise. And in your handout is the Mourner's Kaddish. It's at the center. You'll notice that we show it to you with Hebrew letters in the Aramaic, with a transliteration, and with a translation. It's called the Mourner's Kaddish, but it has nothing to do with death. It just praises God. We're glad we're alive, and we're glad we had Jay. And when we're sad, we can stand and praise God. That's a reflection on Jay, a reflection on us. Please join us out loud with the mourners, whether you're saying it in the Hebrew or the English. We need to hear your voices. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'l'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit aleh, v'yit halal, shemei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma, v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us and for the whole world, and we say amen. I started with it. I'm going to bless you with this. Life will not be the same. I want to remind you to come and visit with the family now, down at the other end of the hall, and that there will be a Shiva Minyan service, Father's Day, at 6 p.m., as we take another opportunity to honor and remember Jay and celebrate his life with the family. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. L'chaim. What do you want?